from the Washington Examiner. He's got details about all that anti-Semitism taking over the Democratic Party in Congress. I'm Vince Collins alongside Emily Jashinsky in this morning for Mary Walter. Emily, good morning.
Hey, Vince.
Hey there. Let's also talk to Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, sitting in studio now. Tom, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. So we've been keeping an eye on this border deal, $1.375 billion, they say, for some 55 miles of border fencing, rather than the $5.7 billion the president has sought for 200 miles of walls. What do you make of it?
I think it's significant. The president wanted 235 miles initially of wall. The Democrats said they wanted 0 miles. Now they're up to 55 miles. And the big fight over the number of detention beds, which have, as soon as this week, according to the negotiations that were coming out, news of the negotiations that were coming out, would have resulted in less detention beds for the violent criminals they had, and
right.
resulted in 88,000 criminal aliens being released onto the streets. Well, the Democrats have come off of that as well. So, my guess is the White House is going to be tempted to take it, and what I would recommend is, if they do take it, they use it as a start to address the emergency. Mm-hmm. There's obviously more wall that's needed, and they should take steps under the law to enforce the border, secure the border, which may involve moving monies around, declaring a national emergency, recognizing the drug crisis on the border that would allow them to spend the money there, or, as I've been saying, just cut to the chase, deploy the military, secure the border, and get it all done, because a wall is necessary but not sufficient given the gravity of the situation. 400,000 picked up. Who knows how many that get over that we don't know about. We can't have civilian control of the border anymore, in my view. It's an experiment, however noteworthy, that's failed, and we need the military to do its job and secure the border.
Judicial Watch has been keeping track of all of the things that have gotten across our border. What have your investigations found?
Well, it's funny because in El Paso, it's kind of been the front lines, obviously. It's right on the border there.
Yes.
And, our law enforcement and other sources over the years have confirmed the movement of special interest aliens into the sector. And they're special interest not because they have interesting hobbies or great personalities. They're special interest because they've been doing things and traveling in a way that suggests a nexus with terrorism or other national security concerns. Mm-hmm. And we've confirmed otherwise that it involves ISIS and other terrorists moving in and around the El Paso sector. It's not just a city, but on both sides. Think of El Paso as one city across from another major metropolitan area, Juarez in Mexico, which is a cartel-run nightmare.
Yes.
But on either side of El Paso, it's just open border. Practically speaking, it's open border. And there are drug corridors, there are trafficking corridors, you name it, for the cartels.
So,
we need security desperately around there. 55 miles won't be enough.
So, we've heard from Republicans that this theory that the president might declare a national emergency, a bunch of Republicans have come out and said, hey, wait a second, and mostly in the Senate, by the way, a lot in the Senate have made this point. Hey, we're for national emergencies, but let's declare them when there's actually an emergency. This is the language that they use. We want to use it for actual emergencies. The border, the way you just described it, sure sounds like an actual emergency.
Of course it's an actual emergency, and it's raising national security concerns for the United States, for the public safety here at home, the health of Americans, and then the open borders is encouraging lawlessness in Mexico and dangerous conditions for the victims of the human trafficking operations. I don't even want to call it migration or immigration or illegal immigration. This is a human trafficking operation that's victimizing millions annually. And by having a secure border, you can address all of those issues and address the emergency that's actually there. I'm glad the president's actually talking about it this way. I've been saying, and the president has noted, because he likes to hear it evidently, that this is, but it's true, this is the first president in a generation that's beginning to speak honestly about the security issues on the border. Mm-hmm. We just don't hear that out of Washington. and we're finally hearing it out of this White House.
Well, and to Vince's point, just because something's been happening for a long time does not mean it's not an emergency.
Right.
Like, the border's been bad for a while.
Yeah, the whole basement's covered in black mold, but it's been that way for a long time. Let's just leave it that way.
Yeah, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when we were talking about amnesty, we had 1 million people crossing the border, but now it's only 500,000.
Yeah.
Rest easy.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Well, you know, and most Americans agree that the border needs to be secure. And I think to the degree this Democratic proposal, it reflects the fact that security is even a priority among many Democrats.
Well, there's some new documents out from Judicial Watch showing that Hillary Clinton thought that she could influence the FBI to behave the way she wanted it to.
Sounds out of character.
We're going to talk to Tom Fitton about that in a moment and find out what he found out. 7:43 on WMAL. He keeps on bugging the government to cough up documents it doesn't want to. And it's happened yet again. Tom, you've gotten the FBI to reveal its interactions with Hillary Clinton's team in the waning days of the 2016 election. And boy, Hillary was mad about something.
Yeah, we got some emails. We sued for the struck page communication, so they haven't deleted all the emails, even though the text may be deleted. So they're giving us some of these emails, and they show that the day of the letter that James Comey sent to Congress about the Clinton email material on the Anthony Weiner laptop,
Yes.
Hillary Clinton's lawyer calls up the top lawyer for the FBI and says, call me back as soon as possible. And he calls back and he recounts the conversation to his colleagues, including James Comey, the then director of the FBI, basically saying that Kendall, who is Mrs. Clinton's lawyer, was complaining, calling his letter tantalizingly ambiguous, and made statements that are inchoate and highly ominous, such that what we had done was worse than transparency, because it allows people to make whatever they want out of the letter, to the prejudice of Secretary Clinton. And he says, I wish I could respond to his, I said I would respond to his request, but he'd have to talk to them. Now, his requests were redacted from the email, but what happened is within a day, they had a phone conference about Mrs. Clinton's lawyer's phone call.
They jumped right away.
They jumped, Mrs. Clinton, at that time, the thought to be incoming president yells at the top levels of the FBI, and they respond, and sure enough, just before the election, Comey sends another letter exonerating her.
Right, so, James Comey said as much in public, that he was working under the assumption that Hillary Clinton would be the next president of the United States. He said that to Congress, didn't he? And in so doing, it basically gets to the point that you're making, which is that a bunch of these guys, all of the senior leadership of the FBI, quickly assembled meetings on how to grapple with the new boss's demands. She's angry. She's upset at our behavior, and we need to quickly figure out a way to resolve this, rather than let's just stay the course, ignore them. In a normal investigative situation with any normal American, the FBI will be like, thanks, buddy. We got it. We heard from you. But we're going to continue our investigation.
So the President of the United States, who runs the Justice Department and the FBI, communicates with James Comey about Michael Flynn's investigation, or so it's been alleged, and that results in a criminal obstruction of justice investigation by all accounts, or at least calls for one. Impeachment. Here we have Mrs. Clinton's top lawyer yelling at the FBI about disclosures to Congress about what she was up to. I wonder if they're going to get similar calls. And this to me confirms that the Clinton investigation was fixed, and we need an honest one. And one of the scandals of the Trump administration doesn't relate to President Trump personally, but to his Justice Department and the FBI, which is the failure to act and to honestly investigate her once the politicized, corrupt individuals like Comey have been kicked out.
April 13th, 2018, real headline from The Guardian. Comey, I was sure Clinton would win election when I reopened email inquiry.
That's right. And then Mrs. Clinton, the incoming president, according to him, starts yelling at him, and they jump like a bunch of scared school children.
Like a bunch of NBA players. They were up high in the sky. All right, thank you for that. Tom Fitton, always appreciate it. Keep up with the good work, sir. 7:51 on WMAL.